Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Mutual Knowledge podcast. I'm Gauthier Lamotte, your host, and today I'm here with Rafael, founder of Genwealth. I had the pleasure to meet Rafael at the incubator from CVVC Labs in Switzerland, and we were both alumni from this incubator. Hi, Rafael. How are you?
Hey, good to hear. Thank you for the invitation. Great to be here with you and to be able to speak a little bit about Genwealth. And yeah, it was definitely great to meet you there. I saw how hard you work, and that was amazing to see. But also how you're a great guy with good intentions, and that matters a lot.
All righty. So, first of all, how did you came in contact with the Web3 space? How did you set foot in this area?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not as old as some people, but I've heard about it maybe some time ago, but initially it was, at least in my country, was very associated with scams, and yeah, but there was not so much scams inside the world, but the more scams like I'll teach you how to make, I don't know, 100x. I'll teach you this, I'll teach you that. And then at the end of the day, it was more one of those things where you get paid by getting more people into the course, and that's how people were getting money. And we had so many things like that, so it got a really bad reputation. So I never dove too deep into it. But as I was investing in stocks and everything, I was always hearing about crypto, and at some point I decided, well, let's really check what this is. And I started researching about the technology, what was its value. I started investing on it in 2020, and then yeah, I got really hooked by the promises, by the ideals, and started getting involved in it, participating in some small projects. Also did some YouTube videos at some point. So yeah, and until a point where I saw a big problem, and I felt like I needed to fix it.
All right, so please stop teasing us. Tell us what the big problem was.
Yeah, I mean, I still so far, I think we have a huge problem with crypto inheritance. It's something that is not solved, and we at Genwealth are here to solve it. And why is it a problem? Because right now we don't really have good solutions that are secure, trustless, and that people want to use. We do have some solutions. Of course, this is a problem that exists with so much crypto lost already in so many blockchains. Bitcoin is a great example. Around 20% of the supply, more than $370 billion, has been lost because of this, because of a lack of a recovery mechanism and an inheritance solution. So current solutions at the moment either are like too complex, they require specific hardware, and they are limiting. Um, they come with their own risks at many points. They have a lot of questions in terms of legal compliance. If you look at how wills work in the real world and how the process should be followed, and also many of them still require you to trust intermediaries, and you need to be apart from the rest of the ecosystem many times. So there are no solutions where you can interact with the apps and do everything you want to do and have full control, without having some, with having inheritance considered. If right now a lot of the solutions, if you want inheritance, you put the tokens on the side and you cannot really move them and use them how you want. And that's very limiting. So what we need to do is build something that is as easy as your wallet, but that has inheritance covered.
All right, so this is so of course vendor lock-in is obviously a problem. That means that you're tied to these guys. Third party means that the third party can be corrupted. You talked also about legal risks and other risks. What are these?
Yeah. So for example, usually in the real world, when you do inheritance, you either follow the norm if you don't have any will, where there are norms of division and a certain percentage needs to go to certain people, and you need to make sure that happens. Or if you have a will and the will is valid, you need to make sure you follow what's in the will and that there is a division of assets according to that will, and that will needs to be valid, because in some countries there are rules also. Even if you have a will, you need to give a minimum of assets. In Web3 inheritance, so far the solutions we've seen, none of that is considered. So let's say the if you want a trustless solution, a solution that exists is just encrypting your seed phrase and then sharing it, for example. That's a common solution. But that doesn't have, that's basically giving all your wealth to one person and then trusting they will do the right thing and divide it with others. And yeah, and it also comes with all kinds of risks in terms of user experience, especially when you don't imagine your users are not that tech savvy. How are you going to leave them assets and all those kinds of things? So those solutions, yeah, don't account for all that, those situations.
So this is how you guys came up with Genwealth. Did you do that alone, or were there other people from the beginning?
Yeah, I mean the idea itself came at a point where I had a few family members dying, and some of them were young, and yeah, it makes you think. And I was young, and I believed in crypto so much that, and it still is, that most of my wealth was in crypto. And I was thinking, what if it was me? And I had no solution. So I tried to research what I could do. I didn't find anything I found comfortable using, because it was not easy enough, or it was not secure, or it was very limiting. So at that point, I wanted to try to see what I could do to solve that situation. I was already learning how to program on blockchain, and so started playing with it. But fortunately, I don't know what it is, I found other people who had the same interest, who were doing also experiments in this area, and we came together to to try to find a solution, and that's how it started.
Wonderful. So please pitch us what Genwealth is. What is
Yeah,
Genwealth?
so yeah, Genwealth is your crypto inheritance and recovery D app. It's self-custodial. You control it from your wallet, and it's basically just like a normal wallet, where we leverage smart contracts to empower you to create rules for inheritance and even a plan B for your crypto. So, you know, you have all the control. You can use it normally, but you have these add-ons, let's say, that keep you covered for those eventualities.
So it can also work as a standard wallet as well.
Yeah, it's a smart contract, so you control it from the wallet. But what we try to do is to give you an experience that is as similar as having your wallet, right? So where you have whatever assets you have there, or under the control of the smart contract, you can do the exact same things as you do with your wallet, right? DeFi, or sending assets, receiving assets, whatever. And then on top of that, you have two sections, where one is for inheritance, one is for recovery, and you can set that up for yourself. And if you want to know more, for example, for inheritance, is really simple. It's like you create a blockchain wheel. You can define beneficiaries, rules. You can define which specific assets you would want to leave a person, or even if you prefer to divide it by shares, right? Whatever is in the wallet, let's divide this percentage to this person, this percentage to that one, and you can make something really flexible. And for recovery, we also tried to make it like trustless, something we could use. So you're basically able to leverage other wallets you have, and set them as safety wallets. Create a deadline for inactivity, and if you're inactive for a period of time, maybe because you can no longer access the wallet, one of those wallets you control could give you rights. And even there, you have a lot of flexibility. You can require two wallets to sign to get back your crypto. If you don't want to have wallets you control, but you prefer to trust people and have like kind of a guardian system, you can have their wallets, so they could verify, they could sign with their wallets to give you back your assets. So you have a lot of flexibility for what you can do.
So basically, technically, you allow a person to say, okay, so if I die, so I suppose technically that means if I don't log into this wallet for such a period of time, that means that you are going to send some money to that address, that address, that address. That means that the people who are the recipients of your inheritance are also connected. They should have addresses as well on the required cryptocurrency.
Yeah, so right now, how it works, I can tell you how it works for the first version, and I can tell you what we envision also for the future. That
Of
is to
course.
give people as many options as possible. But yeah, for the first version, what you do is exactly that. You create the vault with your wallet, and then your wallet is the one who can control and sign everything to make things happen. And then you create the will by defining the beneficiaries with their wallet address, right? And you can even put multiple wallet addresses if they have several wallets, so that they can always claim it. And you decide the assets, you decide the share, you do everything like that. For the trigger, yes, right now we are working with proof of life, which is something where we already spoke to lawyers, and legally we can use that in a very safe way for everyone involved, for the company and for the individuals. It's also fully decentralized solution. And yeah, basically, whenever you use your wallet, the deadline gets updated, and you can also update it manually. If you're one of those users who doesn't use the crypto that much, you can say once a year, twice a year, whatever you want. You want to update this deadline to prove you're alive. And by doing that, yeah, your crypto is fine. When you don't do that, it enters inheritance mode, right? And in inheritance mode, you're able to the beneficiaries are able to claim. So we don't send automatic transactions or anything like that. We actually want the beneficiaries to claim, because that's also a way for them to prove they're alive. So imagine in our solution, we allow you to have like layered inheritance, where, for example, if one of your beneficiaries doesn't claim, maybe he's not alive or something happened, um, it can go to other people afterwards, if they don't claim their share. So this is important to make sure that your crypto actually goes to who you want and to people who can use it instead of being locked. For the future, there's a lot we can do. We can play with IDs instead of wallets as the validation, digital IDs. We can use verifiable credentials, where the documentation that proves your death and that you use on a regular basis in with your bank or whatever could be used in a marketplace and verified to trigger the inheritance, and then it would all go through. But that process and is more complex on the legal side. I mean, on the tech side, it's possible to be done, but on the legal side, we have a lot of requirements we need to follow. Like in many countries, we need to share. It's a DID, but they require you to share, unfortunately, the ID information with individuals. You also need to make sure that all the process is of verification is compliant with the law. So this solution would be developed at based on the demand of users. So imagine we have a lot of users in the US. They want a solution like this. Then we would create a solution like this for that market. And then people have the freedom of using a totally decentralized solution, or a decentralized solution where you have some drawbacks like sharing data and other things like that.
All right, so this is very interesting, and this leads me to the fascinating question that I had immediately in mind when I heard you talk about your project for the first time.
Okay.
Obviously, you're competing with people with the notary industry, with the testament industry. Basically, the people who are uh, when you die, there are people who are paid to basically execute your will, to retrieve that. Let's say, for example, Rafael has a relative who decided to move to Thailand because that person is now living abroad, or to Bali because he's a crypto bro and he lives in Bali. Okay, so how does so we know how a standard professional would retrieve, for example, would search for the clues in order to retrieve your friends and your relatives in order to give them their inheritance. How would Genwealth do that without becoming a centralized, yet another centralized private company that, yes, uses the blockchain, but can also be corruptible? That's the how do you solve that challenge?
Yeah. All right. That's a good question in terms of, yeah, we use the blockchain, and our idea is also from the legal standpoint to make the whole solution as decentralized as possible,
Mm-hmm.
and to be just a tool. And being a tool instead of trying to compete with these professionals and for the market. We are actually working with them. So we've launched a first solution on testnet, and it was a closed testnet. We tried to select crypto users and also inheritance professionals that would fit our personas and inheritance firms. And yeah, we just had them go through the solution. We see the challenges they had. We gathered their feedback, and we are now building a second, more evolved solution. And the idea of doing this is that these professionals were actually excited with the solution and excited to use it. And why is that? Is because the current inheritance process is, even for the professionals, is not simple. Is hard by things that you mentioned, such as someone leaving the country, or maybe even changing phone numbers, changing whatever contacts they have. And then how can you reach them? How can you contact them? Many issues they face. But the reality is that the process for locating beneficiaries and locating assets takes a lot of time and money. Just for you to have a notion, around 3 to 10% of the inheritance goes to costs with this solution, with as execution. And this is not taking into account if you need to go to litigation on the court or something like that. If you need to do that, then it could be even worse. So this solution can really simplify that, because using the blockchain, you have like a will that, besides being updatable, more easily updatable by the user, it's also untamperable because it's locked on the blockchain, so you know that their wishes are those ones. And then the execution, and when you're creating the will, you can automatically define beneficiaries, you can automatically define the way to identify them, you can automatically register all the assets, including if you have other real world assets, you can tokenize it as RWAs, right? And we hope to leverage in the future partners who already have the expertise in tokenization to be able to help these firms tokenize these assets. And once you do that, then when the time comes, basically you can do the inheritances in an almost automated way. Additionally, as a request from these firms and to make sure everything is all right, we even in this new version are adding executor permissions and, let's say, lawyer permissions, where you, as a owner, you can decide to give certain permissions to an executor, like, for example, permissions to change the percentages in the will, so that you can be sure that your will follows the regulation, or permissions to fractionalize assets, so that if you need to divide one asset, like, for example, your house, and you want to give 50% to your wife and 25 to your kids, whatever, it can do that. So you can give them some permissions without allowing them to just take the money. And they can still make sure that your will is right, is compliant, follows the law. And yeah, so for these firms, I think at the end of the day, it's going to be a solution that will make them more efficient, lower the costs. Also, because right now, inheritance, more than 65% of the inheritance processes in the UK are taking like more than 1 year to get done. So that's crazy. Uh, so it will make it much cheaper, much faster, and they will use it just as a way to get competitive edge, let's say, over competitors, I believe.
Okay, that's cool, and so that means that there has to be some kind of human interaction in the loop, anyway, right? Because that means that you said earlier that people will be able to make a claim. So
Yeah.
who do they make the claim to? Who verifies their ID? Is it AI automated? Is there a kind of notarized credentials on the blockchain, and you will build also a technology for that?
Yeah, so I can explain you in the two processes I mentioned you. So in the first process, always who makes the claim is the beneficiary. So the beneficiary says, I want my share. It's like they connect. For example, in the first version, you're identified as a beneficiary by the wallet. So as long as you have the private key to that wallet, you can collect. So you basically, in a simple way, you just connect your wallet to the application. It shows you the inheritance you have to receive, and you claim, and and the assets go to you. If we are in the future with IDs, what happens is that you need to show the death documents. You can choose in a marketplace the verifiers, which are professionals, notaries, and other things like that. They can verify that the death documents are legal. That issues a credential, and that credential allows for inheritance to be triggered. And then you, with your own DID, you can claim your assets. So depending on the version, this would be the processes, but it's always the beneficiary claiming, and it's always the beneficiary showing a proof that they are themselves, whether it is controlling the right wallet or whether it is the digital identity.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you so much. So this is very enlightening. That means that basically you're bringing these new technologies and the era of Web3 to a long-lasting problem, and that means that all the people who lost their passphrase in the will probably be a thing of the past thanks to this idea.
Yeah, we cannot recover the lost crypto, unfortunately. But if you plan ahead, if you're prepared, then you will have solutions to recover it. But yeah, it's up to you to plan ahead, definitely.
So it should become a standard in the next decade in order to avoid these errors from the past when the technology was young and immature. Then.
Yeah, let's hope so. We just want to make it really, pleasant, easy to use, and beneficial for people, so that they just use it because it's what's best for them. So uh, that's the goal.
Thank you so much, Rafael. Everyone, this was Rafael Cardoso, the founder of Genwealth. Any last word?
Yeah, no. The last word would be, well, would love to, if you're interested, would love to have you involved. You can come test our first version. You can give us your feedback. This is a solution for you. So would love to have you on board. Check us out on Twitter or Discord, and join it. Join the community and the mission.
Everyone, this was the Mutual Knowledge podcast. Please look them up. Look up Genwealth and what they do and test their products. That seems rad. Thank you so much, Rafael.
Thank you, Gauthier. It was amazing to be here with you.
Cheers, everyone.